It's the end of an era. Schultz, Habeck, and friend of the pod Christian Lindner have all had their last Absacker and stumbled out into the night. You can still hear them arguing in the distance, in a cloud of mutual acrimony. Hey, we just let the market regulate itself, Christian. But spare a thought for Meghan, who has to learn a whole new set of German politicians' names. At least Merz will be easy to remember. It rhymes with Schmerz. And there was good news too. Arch-splitter Sarah Wagenknecht took her heebie-jeebie energy into the wilderness, and Die Linke finally figured out how to set up a TikTok account and do a proper election campaign. Hooray!
In Berlin's heart, where news is unveiled, Meghan and Conrad with German tales. The German news, it's tough to bear, but with mega cans, they're ready to repair. Conrad, daily news at hand. Meghan feels to spare time to crack those cans. With each sip she takes, the mag is her shield. But will it last the news? 'Cause that was the deal.
Hello everyone, it's time for another episode of Meghan's Megacan. Very slightly ahead of schedule, our usual 2-week schedule, because Germany has voted. It's done.
Yeah.
Hello, Conrad. I don't even have time. I'm so excited I don't even have time to introduce you.
Hello, yes.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. The spring is in the air.
It is a bit, but it's a full spring, let's not forget.
It's a
It'll
full
be fucking freezing in 2 weeks. So.
Okay. I won't go into any political analogies with that one. Won't go there. Good. Yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we get to see each other again so soon.
I know.
It's very exciting.
I know. We've been seeing a lot of each other between the Berlinale, which also finished on Sunday. It was a big day for Germany on Sunday.
Yeah.
We're also it was my birthday last week.
Oh yeah, happy birthday.
And for reasons unrelated to that, I'm not drinking today, and you said you wouldn't drink either.
Yeah.
So I've brought a Jever Fun. And then I was like, I don't know if you like Jever, because if you don't like Jever, this is disgusting.
Okay, no,
But if you quite like really bitter beer, it's quite nice.
Yeah, no, it's good, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to do what I should have done in the time that I had to prepare, which was to open these beers. Why don't you give the big numbers of what happened, just in case anyone is, for some reason, relying on us. Like, this is you've been waiting. I'll just wait till the mega can comes out.
So they will definitely have the reliable numbers. Maybe people have been like trying not to find out what the real numbers is because they want to have the excitement of hearing it from us.
Reading it off a website.
The actual election results. So,
all right,
everyone,
here we go.
German election 2025.
Yeah.
For the Parliament, the Bundestag. In first place, we got the CDU-CSU with 28.6%.
Mm-hmm.
In second place, we have the AfD with 20.8%.
Oof.
In third place, the SPD with 16.4%.
Mm-hmm.
And in fourth place, the Greens with 11.6%. And in fifth place, Die Linke with 8.8%. Then we got two more parties that didn't make it into the parliament.
We do.
That would be the Bundesrat Wagenknecht with 4.97%. You get an extra decimal place there just to show why it's so close. And the FDP, which are down to 4.3%.
Oof. Drink to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like
yes,
a Jever Fun, I have to say.
Yeah. What's your first impression?
Right. So I would generally say, and obviously this is complete anecdata from myself, from people around me, from the general vibe, I would say, is that we knew it was going to be bad in terms, like, for people who think that everyone is a person and should be allowed to come to Germany if they need to, etc., etc. Like, we knew the CDU was going to win. And we knew the AfD were going to do well.
Yeah.
But they remained pretty consistently, or they actually got lower than what they were polling a while ago, or certainly the CDU from what I can...
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like, they didn't do as well as I thought. And to be honest, I was shit scared that we were going to have like a, you know, when people don't actually admit in the polls that they're going to vote AfD, and then suddenly they were going to come out with like 28% or something.
Yeah, no, that would have been bad.
And that didn't happen.
no.
20% is bad. And there are some places where a lot of people voted for the AfD, and that is
Yeah.
really scary.
I mean, it's quite noticeable how close the polls were, actually, and how little the polls shifted during the campaign, except for Die Linke. That
Yeah,
was the
which
only
we're going
party.
to talk about later, because that was quite something. That seemed to
Yeah.
happen in about a fortnight.
Yeah, we should say that the CDU lost a few percent. Like, they were really hoping to get over 30%. Like,
Yeah.
the supporters were disappointed with that result.
Yeah.
They were really thought that they would get they would get over 30%, and because that was what they were polling only a few months ago, and some research institutes even had them saying that their voter potential was up to 38%. So 28% is actually quite bad for the CDU. I think overall, generally, I'm quite relieved, like in a very, very sort of big picture way, that it's enough for the CDU, that the results are fallen so that the CDU and the SPD can make a coalition. I think if it had been a three-way coalition, it would be like really unstable. I don't see how long that government would last in the current climate. So we could maybe I think it's also now it's going to be really, really difficult anyway, because I think the SPD supporters are going to be not happy with their own party coming together. Sorry.
Yeah. Just to go back, let's take it because we've done the bigger picture. We're going to get to like the more analysis-y bit.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm not following your plan.
I did have a plan, and I do have a plan. I just feel like I've been having so many conversations around, like, this is obviously all we've been talking about on text and various things, and I was like, I need to keep my head straight on what I'm saying here. Let's go back to election night. What was the big drama? So obviously we have two parties who do not. So the big losers are the ample people. I mean, the FDP were already out. What happened? Where's our drama on election night?
Well, we basically lost all the party leaders of they didn't lose them. They resigned.
We've just misplaced them. They've gone off. They've gone on the lash.
Yeah, they didn't die or anything.
No.
So Scholz, Habeck, and Christian Lindner all kind of said they were not going to continue, at least in their capacity, I guess, as leaders of the party. Lindner was the one who resigned from all politics.
He has. I'm almost sad. Like, what am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
It's a whole part of my identity. I was talking to a friend today, and he was like, this is the feel-good story of the ages. He caused this whole thing with his whole plan to, like, his secret whatever and lists of demands and everything to pull this whole general election. And then he absolutely fucking stacks it.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is all, we can say this is all Christian Lindner's fault that we're in this situation, that we even had this election. He went into the whole ample thing thinking that he has to be like the opposition inside the government, right? So that he can keep his profile as a party, that they can keep this sort of thing. And he kept doing the same thing, and it didn't work. He kept losing elections. All the state elections went badly for him.
Yep.
And he never got, and there was no one around him in the FDP who was like prepared to tell him, actually, we need to make this government look like it's working a little bit.
It's just like a big misunderstanding between what is to be like a party leader in the opposition and then what it is to be in government. And like, even I can fucking understand that. What it means to sign a coalition contract, and that you have to go in there once you get to government, once you're in that position, people want to see you just do your fucking job.
Yeah.
And he just didn't. And people really do not like that. And that is why I think everyone was delighted to see him. And I wonder also if, like, I mean, the SPD did badly.
Yeah,
they didn't do potentially as badly as they could have. Like, if you look at Olaf Scholz's ratings.
Yeah, so the SPD lost 9.3 points from the 2021 result, which was the most of any party. But proportionally, the FDP did worse. The FDP, who were already pretty low, they were on like 11% in 2021, and they went down by 7 points from that. So it was like that. Proportionally, they did the worst. Yeah, and it's pretty obvious. The Greens actually they obviously lost a lot of votes, but it wasn't like that terrible for them. They lost 3 points. 3.1 was their overall score compared to the 21 score. So of
That's
the
not
three
too bad. Like, I think.
of the three government parties, they did the best.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
wondered, that's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, people are annoyed with Schultz.
yeah, and I think that and if you looked at the ratings for personal popularity ratings,
Yeah.
Schultz was better than Merz on quite a lot of things.
Yeah.
On things like, can you trust him, all that stuff. So, but obviously he still lost, and he did win his seat though, I should say, directly in Potsdam, where Annalena Baerbock was also running
Yeah.
and came fourth.
Ooh. Yeah. Don't know what's going to happen with her. But anyway, so those boys are gone. Well done, Christian. You started this this cycle with your. Do you remember when they were like the kingmaker and it was all about the FDP who they were going to go into coalition with? Yeah. Look what you've done now. And of course you'll take no fucking personal responsibility for this because that's not your brand. And there's obviously no talking to you because someone could have sat you down and explained to you what your actual job was for the last 4 years, and apparently you just didn't listen. So it's fine. But this is also the fucking sucky thing because he's going to be fine.
Well,
There's no real consequences.
No, he'll
Not
get
that
a
I think.
job,
Sorry, to be clear, I don't think there should be like real horrible consequences for like things. But when you're this kind of like privileged, like the stakes are so low. The stakes are so low for you, and you still can't even get your shit together, and you have so much going for you and so little going against you, and you still couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And you fucking drag a whole country when it's really important to be stable into the absolute mess. Like, gross.
Anyway, so what's the next thing?
So the FDP are out.
Yeah.
And Sarah Wagenknecht, BSV, they're nowhere to be seen in the Bundestag either.
Yeah, that's also a bit of a surprise because last September there were those 3 state elections in the East where they did really well. They got between 10 and 15% in all those states. And at the time, they were polling nationally at 10% as well. So it looked like they were going to easily cruise into the new federal parliament. And it didn't work out. And that was a bit of a surprise. Like, it was always touch and go. It always looked like the polls were going against them. Probably a lot of different reasons for that, but I think one of the bigger ones is that the issue that they're most associated with was this kind of forcing some kind of peace in Ukraine. With Trump coming in, that has become less like that. Trump seems to have just taken that issue away from Sarah Wagenknecht because now everyone expects that to be forced on Ukraine anyway. So it became less of an election issue. If you asked Sarah Wagenknecht why they didn't do so well, she blames the media. She did a press conference. They all do a press conference on Monday, and she said that there was a massive negative campaign against her party specifically, and that they never were able to get their positions on social issues in the media. And
because you have allowed it to be overshadowed with your populist shite. That's the whole fucking reason you left Die Linke, because you wanted to be transphobic and focus on like loving Russia and capitalizing on people's like war fatigue over Ukraine.
Yeah, and probably the most also another interesting thing about the BSW is that, you remember when they were formed and everyone thought, oh, maybe they will take some votes from the AfD. That was like a thing that people thought, oh, they're like the left wing, the more, you know, like they were like the anti-immigration left wing party. That was like their thing, and it didn't work out. So according to the Infratest DMAP, which does this sort of thing, a thing called the voter migration graphs for each party, according to that, the AfD only lost 60,000 votes to the Bundesrat Wagenknecht, which is hardly any in the big picture. And so I talked to an expert about that, someone from the a political scientist who did an analysis of the BSW voters, and he said that the thing about AfD voters is that even though they do quite like Sarah Wagenknecht, they consider her like the smallest, the smallest evil of all the other parties. And there's like the gap between AFD voters and all the other parties is so big, they're never going to vote for any other party. Like they're just going to stay with that party. Whereas other parties, like for example, the Linke and the Greens, their voters often switch between elections. Yeah. But that does not happen on the right as much. Yeah, he said that this is it was a bit of a miscalculation and a false hope that many of us perhaps harboured that BSW would take some of the AFD's votes.
No, I think that sort of ring. Everyone thinks that they can cater to people who've gone, like that takes much more than like that's a whole thing where you've decided that you're going to, I don't know, like really kind of maybe commit to something. I don't know.
The other thing about Sarah Wagenknecht, it's a little side note perhaps, is they're trying to challenge the election result now because they were so close, 4.97%. And that works out as something like 13,400 votes overall. 13,000. In fact, another website called Wahlrecht.de worked out exactly how many votes the BSW needed to get into the parliament, and it turned out to be 13,435.
That's not very many.
No. So now they are trying to challenge the result based on the fact that a lot of people who wrote in Germans living abroad did not get their ballot papers in time. This was a big issue because of this. The election was brought forward, and a lot of and people who sent off for their ballot papers didn't get them.
Okay, that makes sense because I don't trust.
So apparently about 200,000, there are about 200,000 registered voters living abroad.
Okay.
Like some of them did manage to vote, obviously, so it's not all of them. Yeah. And whether or not all of them would have voted for Sarah Wagenknecht is obviously very doubtful too.
I mean, unless they're living in Russia.
Maybe. You never know. So they're kind of like trying to bring it up, but the legal experts say that they're not probably going to get very far with this because although there is a right to vote, there is no right to a postal vote necessarily in the Constitution. There's like this.
Oh, interesting.
If you want to vote, you've got to find your own way to vote. You know, it's not in the Constitution that you
have a right to have it delivered in there. Okay, interesting.
But that's a sort of side note,
All right, a mixed bag.
Bit of a mixed bag.
But because the big winners, of course, like I don't even want to talk about the AfD. Like I feel like we knew that was going to happen. We've talked about enough of like what the things are, but 20%, whatever.
But we should talk about the winner of the election.
We should. The winner of the election, Friedrich Merz.
Friend of the pod. This is some facts about our new presumptive chancellor.
No, because I read his bloody Wikipedia on the way here. That's what you're tuning in for. Okay. I mean, Conrad's done stuff. I'm just like, let's look at some things.
This is the first time that we're going to have a chancellor who has never been in any government before. He's never been a minister. This is the first time any German chancellor is completely inexperienced in government.
Oh God.
He's not even been a regional minister, and he's pretty old. And also the interesting thing is, I was listening to this other podcast today, and they were saying like it's actually mad that he's now the chancellor because he kind of kept losing every single contest he tried to get in. In the early 2000s, he lost to Angela Merkel when he was trying to become the leader of the CDU then. Yeah. Lost out and gave up his seat in the Bundestag because he was so pissed off about this. Yeah. And left politics for a long time, went to work for BlackRock, the huge investment fund people. Don't know what they do.
Bad stuff, I think.
And essentially, they were saying that he kind of used all his political contacts. That's how he got the job there.
He seems to look at his thing to be this sort of career politician who's never actually managed to make it very far in politics, because for a long time there was a much more competent woman in the thing but he just seems to be this kind of guy out in like I know he's in Hochsauerland. What is his Bundesland?
It's part of Nordrhein-Westfalen. It's the Sauerland. Yeah, it's a region.
So he seems Catholic. To do these bits and pieces. Of course he fucking is. At one point he's sort of like, made in charge of kind of how Brexit is going to affect NRV, like Nordrhein-Westfalen, but everyone is a bit like, what exactly is this? It was like controversial, like what his actual job and efficiency
Yeah.
was. So just some guy who seems to know the right people, like enough to be like cutting about. He goes to work at BlackRock. He's from a very privileged family. I don't hear any of this. Fucking Christian, but only in that way of, I don't want abortions or fucking embryos to be tested in this ridiculous nonsense that we have in Germany.
Yeah, he notoriously in the Bundestag in the 90s he voted against that bill to make rape in marriage illegal.
Yeah, I was reading that today, and then he tries to lawyer. He is a lawyer, a trained lawyer somehow. But again, doesn't seem to have ever. I mean, he was doing bits and pieces in. Anyway, I don't think this man is fit to govern.
Well, he's very used to doing politics in opposition, is the point.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that he then, when Merkel resigned and there was like a big leadership contest to take over, he lost again to
Armin Laschet.
Before that.
Oh.
AKK. Annegret.
AKK.
Do you remember her?
Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer. Is that?
Did
I say that right?
No. Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer.
I don't know if I said that, but very nearly. It was recognizable. And I remember I spent.
We nearly forgot about her.
So long learning her name, like I could not get my thing right, and then by the time I managed to say it correctly on the podcast, she'd fucking gone.
Yeah, so she took over from Merkel. She was Merkel's successor, and then she did really badly, and the CDU decided they didn't want her to be leading them into the next election, so they had another leadership contest, and Friedrich Merz lost again. To Armin Laschet,
who literally, I would challenge anyone to pick him out of a lineup now. Like, I'd challenge Friedrich Merz to pick him out of a lineup. Like, that man is forgettable.
Yeah, so that's his. So it's kind of mad that Friedrich Merz has now made it after all these years, after all these defeats in his political career. He's actually come through. It's just kind of an interesting bit of his biography.
And he's also made all of these popular statements. He's said hugely Islamophobic stuff. He said awful stuff about basically young brown men after the sort of Sylvester, New Year's, hoopla stuff.
I mean, we don't even have to go for that
don't even
far
have
back.
to. Just absolutely disgusting stuff. And he's just pushed in that racist law, or tried to push in, managed it one day, didn't manage it with the second Binding law, using the votes from the AfD, and rightly got his ass handed to him by lots of different people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Including quite a lot of German voters, because the CDU didn't do as well as they expected. They lost, according to this voter migration graph, they actually lost 1 million votes to the AfD, despite the fact that they were trying to be as racist as the AfD.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's the thing. You just legitimize the AfD if you say the same things as them, because there is this, a red line for people, in our own heads, what you will and will not do, whether we kind of articulate it or not. And if you are sort of, for whatever weird reason in your psyche, thinking, oh, the AfD, I'd actually just love to go back to that. I really actually feel something stirring in my heart when I see pictures of my grandfather in his SS uniform, or whatever the fuck is motivating these people. I don't know. But if you then go, oh, well, Friedrich Merz, he also agrees. The CDU are going to agree with them anyway, so that's fine. Things have changed now. It's not Merkel's Germany anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck you. Ugh. Anyway, but the good thing is he's not going to be, because this is Germany, he will not be governing alone.
No.
What are our options? It seems to be it's going to be kind of straightforward, because usually this is the time in Germany where we all have to learn obscure flags. Not that obscure, but I'm not very good with flags at all. My brain is not very, I couldn't remember what the German one was.
Well, have you heard there's a new one now because of, because of Thüringen, there's the Brombeer Koalition, because the BSW joined. I don't even know what it is.
The raspberry?
No, blackberry.
Oh, blackberry.
There's a blackberry.
Like a purple and black? Purple and red? What?
I have to look it up now.
So you could have fruits apparently, or like things like the Ampel, the traffic light, but everything else has to be flags. Jamaica, Kenya.
So this is the new coalition in Thüringen, which is black for CDU, red for SPD, and purple for the Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, although I've often seen them in orange. No one seems to have decided which colour they are, but they're lila, and they've called this the Brombeer-Koalition.
No, thank you.
The Blackberry Coalition.
That sounds
but
gross.
that's not going to happen because the BSW is not in the federal parliament. But so the CDU, CSU, and the SPD would have a majority of 12, which is pretty
knapp.
The CDU could also do it in coalition with the AfD and get a bigger coalition, a bigger majority, slightly bigger, another 30 seats.
Okay.
Then there's the Kenya coalition, which is CDU, SPD, and Greens.
Yeah.
They would have like a pretty big majority, almost 2/3. 413 out of 630 seats. Yeah.
But that's unlikely from what...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because it's just politically... I think the CDU are so scared of the AfD that if they join a coalition with the Greens, they'll just be destroyed. And also the Greens won't want to do it because they'll feel like it's their... They'll feel like they'll lose even more supporters to the Linke if they join that coalition, I think.
Yeah, so we're looking at what has historically not always been, but not quite status quo in Germany, but was for a long time from what I understand, which is what is usually called the GroKo, the Große Koalition, because it's between the two biggest parties, but they're not the two biggest parties anymore.
Kleine GroKo.
Kleine GroKo.
And it's going to be very weird to see what, like that. I don't think even those coalition negotiations with the CDU is going to be because between the CDU and SPD, because the first thing that Merz is going to try and do is presumably bring in another one of his immigration laws, his famous immigration laws, and the SPD voted against the one that he brought in last time. So I don't quite know how all that is going to pan out. It's not going to be that easy. And of course, the AfD now, Alice Weidel, she's got we just know what she's going to say for the next 4 years. She's going to say you're copying our idea and you really should be in a coalition with us. That's going to be her whole argument.
Yeah.
And because of his stupid law that he brought in last time, she'll have a point, it'll be hard for them to hard for the CDU to argue against that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have much hope. Friedrich Merz he is sort of saying normal things about Trump and Ukraine and stuff like that. And he has sort of shown in the past, like there was a bit where he kind of, when it wasn't really working, backpedaled on his populist bullshit for a while. So maybe there are people around him who will be like, I don't think he's like an ideological, I think he's a racist.
No, but yeah.
But I don't think he might listen to people around him. I don't know. He really needs to fucking get his act together. But I also don't feel like he is someone who has like a real sense of duty. He's just doing this for himself. He's going to be so delighted with himself.
It's just hard to imagine him as some kind of statesman, He just seems as this
he's just a little weasel.
Hectoring weasel. A hectoring, angry weasel. So it'll be weird to see. Well, we shall see.
Let's see. And who he'd be working with the SPD. I'm going to have to learn all of their names. Don't know anyone's name. If Schultz is gone. A few of them I do, but...
Lars Klingbeil. Do you know that name?
Yeah.
He's probably going to be the next SPD leader.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, so before we get to, still, as it stands, bad, but not as bad as we thought. Given the whole vibe of 2025, it's not as bad as it could have been.
Yes.
And one thing to move into our good news segment is the unbelievable success story that was Die Linke's campaign literally in the last few weeks.
Yeah,
I think, following particularly the whole fallout from this shit show that Friedrich Merz brought into the Bundestag a few weeks ago.
So in December, the Linke was polling at 3%.
That's bad.
And the Bundesrat Wagenknecht was way ahead, and they basically turned that around very quickly. And it seems as if they really benefited from the Merz speech.
Yeah.
They found a new star in Heidi Reicheneck, the co-leader, who was one of their main candidates, and she did this extremely angry speech that did
Yeah,
really
it was
good.
really good.
She was raging directly at Friedrich Merz when he joined forces with the AfD in the Bundestag.
Yeah.
Also, they had a great, or we've heard from our Linke insider that we know.
Yeah.
They had a great ground game, specifically in seats where they turned out to win, which was in Berlin, in Neukölln, and in Kreuzberg. They apparently brought in a lot of volunteers from around the country to go knocking on doors.
And they really focused on this idea of getting these popular candidates in on this direct mandate, and it worked. So Die Linke won Berlin.
They won 4 direct seats in Berlin.
Yeah.
Lichtenberg, Treptow, of course, with Gregor Gysi, Neukölln with Kutschak, and Kreuzberg with someone called Pascal Meyer. Yeah, so that was like a really big, and that's a big deal because it's the first time the Linke has won any direct seats in West Germany, because it was always the party that would do well in the East.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows that really there's a kind of generational shift, really. And the Kreuzberg was always like a safe Green seat for years and decades. It was the only direct seat that the Greens won in the whole of Germany. Yeah. With Hans Christian Ströbele. So they took Kreuzberg from the Greens and they took Neukölln from the CDU because
they did. Sarah Kotschak just stormed it.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not 100% behind Die Linke in everything, though I think they've probably changed their position a bit on, they're less weird now about Russia, possibly also because Sarah Wagenknecht took a lot of those weirdos with her. But I think what's been really heartening is we need to find a way on the left, as in spectrum terms, not the party terms, of galvanizing and like actually having strategy. And this was like, this fucking works. Having these charismatic people and like using TikTok actually properly. And Heidi Reinknecht and Kotschak and stuff seem to be able to do that in a way that is not, cringe or just like really boring speeches that no young person is going to listen to because there's already 4 words they don't understand. Not because they're stupid, but because they're not adults. They don't know what these words mean. Yeah, it was very heartening. And
so the Linke won the most votes in Berlin overall, 20%.
Yeah, they did.
Which is mad considering the
fucking mental.
The fact that the regional election that we had only last year. Was it last year? The year before?
I don't know. Call another one. Call it right now. What do we have to do to bring down the fucking Abgeordnete house? This is...
So this CDU city... the CDU mayor is now a Hochburg for the Linke, as they say. Yeah, and they won the votes amongst under 25s in the whole of Germany.
Yeah.
So 25% of under 25s voted for Die Linke. The second place was the AfD, 21%, and then all the others are kind of less. Can't be bothered to go through it. 60s and older, do you want to know have a guess who won the 60s and older generation? CDU 37%, SPD 23%, and AfD 15% of 60s and older.
Yeah, that's quite interesting in that they're not very they're less popular maybe amongst
the older people.
But I think the Die Linke with younger people is interesting. I would imagine that Gaza had quite a lot to do with that. And I think also because Die Grünen are seen more kind of like established now, and young people want to have like a little bit more of a protest, like a more edgy.
But also, Sarah Wagenknecht was also like pro-Gaza.
Pro-Palestinian. She did actually say some normal things, but then she's also fucking insane about Russia. So.
But that's interesting that that young people still didn't believe in the sort of one-woman show that is the BSW, I guess. I don't know.
No, I think any young, she just gives people the heebie-jeebies. I don't know. She scares me. I don't know what else to say.
Also, they were talking about, in the press conference yesterday, they were asking, are you going to resign from your party? Because you said before the election that we have to get into the parliament because that's the most important thing in Germany. And it's interesting because, she can't really resign because the party's named after her. So, they'd have to come up with a new name.
Oh, God. Yeah, so, I don't know.
I'm not going to resign because then I'll have to take my name with it.
Well,
yeah. Anyway.
food for thought.
Food
But
for thought,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's not great. It's not great when you look at Berlin surrounded by Brandenburg, which voted 32-ish%, I think, for the AfD, which is a lot.
I mean,
32.5, yeah, which is less than, say,
Well, Saxony.
Oh,
40%
don't
AfD.
don't even talk about those. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah, Saxony,
We do have
Saxon-Anhalt, bloody 37%, Thüringen, 39%.
Also, there's one district of Berlin also was directly won by the AfD for the first
did,
time.
yeah.
Marzahn was won by gloriously named Gottfried Curio. Jesus Christ. So every time I hear that name, it just
Curio
really makes
indeed.
me, he's a curio.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, here we are.
Here we
I
are.
hope everything doesn't completely collapse in the next few weeks. But Friedrich Merz is going to have to do some work now. And this is where it gets really boring when you've been in opposition as like a little pipsqueak weasel for his entire career,
Yeah.
flouncing in and out of the Bundestag when he loses something. And now you have to be like, oh no, it's your job to get everything done.
Yeah.
And the buck stops with you. And let's see. But we really need him to thing. So like genuinely, I wish him well, because we can't have any more of this shilly-shallying around and like, because it just feeds the AfD.
And on that note,
On that note, everyone,
thanks. very
take
much.
good care of yourselves. Bye.
Bye.
Maggot can. German news in English with a cocktail can. The German news, it's quite a test. With Megan's Mega, you're feeling refreshed. Ooh, Megan's Maggot can. German news in English with a cocktail can. Deutsche Nachrichten sind düster und schwer. Down the Mega.
Defy the fear.
Yeah.
It's actually it's quite a positive message to give to
think
people.
so.
I like to think that we have quite a positive impact on our listeners.
I hope so.
Because we try and get them to defy the fear of listening to the news all day.
I mean, it's better than reading a German newspaper. Surely.
I would definitely recommend listening to our podcast more than reading any German newspaper.
German newspapers barely have pictures.
No.
Like fucking, it's just a brick of text.
Oh yes.
It's
Yeah, and they seem to
awful.
make a virtue of it. They think it's like so great to have no
Oh,
text.
not like you Americans
pictures.
with your fucking
Colour pictures.
decadent pictures in
I
your
know.
newspapers.
Yeah,
What's
like-
that? A crossword puzzle? Oh, no
You have
wonder
to-
you had Trump. Jesus Christ, everyone! Like, there's a middle ground.
You have to concentrate on the news. It's very important. And you have to like keep it there.
Just have a mega.
Have a mega. Give us a picture every now and then.
Just a
And
wee picture, maybe of,
yeah.
a diagram.